You know that feeling, right? When your brain just feels completely overloaded.
Oh, yeah.
Like after a really crazy week, or maybe just scrolling online too much. Or
Mm.
maybe you've seen kids, just glued to their screens.
It does make you wonder.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if there's maybe a simpler way to recharge, something a bit more, well, natural.
That's exactly what we're digging into today. We're looking at the impact of bringing nature right into schools for kids, for teenagers.
Right. Forget the endless worksheets for a minute.
Yeah, think more rustling leaves, less phone notifications maybe, and more just noticing what's actually around them.
Exactly. And this isn't just, a nice feeling or an idea. We've got some proper research here to unpack.
We do. It's based on a systematic review.
Okay, so what does that mean exactly?
Well, it means researchers gathered together a whole bunch of studies, 19 of them in this case, that looked at the same kind of question. They analyzed them all together to get a clearer, bigger picture.
Ah, okay. And these studies looked at what kind of things?
Different ways schools are actually doing this. Things like outdoor lessons, taking kids on nature walks, even just making the schoolyards greener.
And the kids involved.
A pretty wide age range, actually, from 5-year-olds right up to 19.
Got it. So our mission today for you listening is to basically take all that detailed research
Mm.
and pull out the really important bits, the key insights.
Yeah, give you a shortcut, really. A shortcut to understanding how these green school things might affect young people's minds, their bodies, even how they get along with each other.
We're hoping for those kind of aha moments,
Yeah.
those surprising little facts that maybe make you think about the school day a bit differently.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start with the why. Why are we even focusing on nature in schools? I mean, are kids really that disconnected these days?
Well, it's a growing concern. More and more people live in cities, right?
Yeah.
Urbanization is increasing, and that often means less everyday contact with natural environments. Combine that with, well, the huge increase in screen time. Some research in 2022 pointed this out clearly.
So less green space, more screen space.
Pretty much. And researchers think this shift might be linked to some worrying trends we're seeing in young people's health. Things like rising mental health issues, which studies noted way back in 2005, and also lower levels of physical activity, which more recent studies confirmed around 2021.
Okay, so there's a potential link there, a real reason to look for solutions.
Exactly. And bringing nature back into schools could be one really practical solution.
Right. But why nature specifically? Is there some scientific reason why green spaces are supposed to be so good for us?
Oh, yeah, there's some really fascinating science behind this. A few key theories help explain it.
Okay.
First, there's something called the biophilia hypothesis. Biophilia.
Biophilia, love of life.
Essentially, yeah. The idea put forward by people like E.O. Wilson back in the 80s is that humans have this deep, innate tendency to connect with nature. It's almost like it's baked into our biology because, well, we evolved in natural environments for millennia.
So it's like we're hardwired to feel better around plants and trees and stuff.
That's the core idea. Then there's attention restoration theory, often called ART.
RT.
This one, developed by the Kaplans, suggests that being in nature helps us recover from mental fatigue. You know, the kind you get from concentrating hard on tasks.
Right, like studying or working on a computer.
Exactly. Natural environments often have what they call soft fascination things that are interesting to look at, like leaves moving or water flowing, but they don't demand intense focus. This lets that directed attention part of your brain rest and recharge.
So it's not just about looking at pretty pictures online then. That doesn't quite cut it.
Probably not in the same way, no. Online stuff often still requires focus. You're still processing information actively. RT also talks about feeling like you're away from your usual routine in a space that feels large enough to explore and that supports what you want to do, like wander or reflect.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. And you mentioned a third one.
Yes, stress reduction theory, or SRT. This comes from Roger Ulrich.
SRT, got it.
This theory focuses more on the emotional and physiological side. It suggests that natural settings, especially ones that feel safe and unthreatening, can quickly calm us down after we've been stressed. They can lower our heart rate, blood pressure, and trigger more positive feelings.
So sort of tapping into a relaxation response.
Precisely. So you put these together, biophilia, RT, SRT, and you get a strong theoretical basis for why nature experiences, even in schools, could be really beneficial for reducing mental fatigue and stress.
Okay, that's a great foundation. So let's dive into the actual findings from that big review. What did the studies show about mental well-being? How did nature in schools affect kids' moods and feelings?
Right, let's start with positive affect, basically. Feeling good, happy emotions.
Yeah.
One study back in 2014 found that even just looking out at a school garden made primary school kids feel happier. They actually used more positive words afterward.
Just looking at it. Wow.
Yeah, and another interesting one from 2019 compared a day at a nature school versus a day at a museum. Primary kids reported feeling more positive emotions at the nature school.
Okay, that makes sense.
But interestingly, they also reported more negative emotions there too.
Oh, how come?
Well, the researchers didn't pinpoint exactly why, but it suggests nature experiences aren't always just purely positive. Maybe there were challenges like bad weather or insects, or just the unfamiliarity. It shows it's complex.
That's a really good point. It's not always sunshine and roses, literally.
Exactly. Context matters.
Right.
But overall, several other studies, like one in 2016 and another in 2021, consistently found that spending even short amounts of time in school green spaces boosted positive feelings.
Okay.
And this effect seemed even stronger when kids were there with a friend.
Ah, the social aspect, too.
Yep. And one more really encouraging finding from 2022. Garden-based lessons specifically helped improve positive affect for students who are already struggling with emotional difficulty.
That's really significant, so it'd be
Yeah.
particularly helpful for some kids.
It seems so. So the general takeaway on positive affect is pretty, well, positive. Nature in schools seems to genuinely lift kids' spirits in various ways.
That's fantastic news.
Okay.
Okay, what about the flip side stress? Did the research show that being in nature at school could actually help kids feel less stressed or overwhelmed?
Yes, there were some compelling findings here, especially looking at physiological measures of stress,
Like,
like blood pressure. A study in 2015 looked at teenagers after their schoolyard got a green makeover. Their blood pressure was significantly lower compared to students at a control school without the greening.
so a physical sign of being less stressed.
Exactly. And another study, this one in 2017, measured cortisol levels. That's a major stress hormone in primary school kids. They found a significant drop in cortisol for kids participating in an outdoor curriculum in a forest setting compared to their peers in a normal classroom.
Wow, that's quite direct evidence, isn't it?
Mm.
Measuring the actual stress hormone.
It really is. It points towards a real biological calming effect, at least in those younger kids in that forest setting.
But you said at least in those younger kids. Does it differ by age?
Well, that's where it gets a bit nuanced. Remember that 2016 study? It looked at older students, secondary school age.
Mm-hmm.
They had students relax either in the school's green space or indoors, and they measured heart rate and blood pressure to see how well they recovered from mild stress. Surprisingly, they didn't find a significant difference between the green space and indoors for stress restoration in that older group.
Oh, okay. So the blood pressure finding was for general levels in greener yards. But this one was about recovery after stress. And it didn't show a strong nature effect for older kids.
Precisely. So it raises this interesting question. Does nature's stress-busting power work differently depending on age? Maybe younger kids get that more immediate physiological calming, while for teenagers it's more complex. Or maybe the type of green space matters more.
That's fascinating. Definitely something needing more research. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Physical well-being. Super important for kids. What did the review find about physical activity? Did getting kids into nature at school actually make them move more?
This is one area where the findings were quite mixed, actually, which isn't totally surprising when you study behavior like physical activity.
Right, lots of factors involved.
Exactly. So on one hand, you had an observational study from 2016 suggesting that schools with more green space tended to have older elementary kids who were more physically active. Just observing, they saw a link.
Okay, a correlation.
Yes. But then a small case study from 2007 looked really closely at just one forest school day versus a regular school day and didn't find a significant difference in the total amount of physical activity.
So maybe a single day isn't enough to change the overall pattern.
That could be it. Or maybe how activity was measured mattered. However, when you look at studies where the nature exposure was more built in, more sustained, the picture changes.
Oh, so?
Well, several experiments, that 2017 study again, plus others from 2019, 2021, 2018, consistently showed more physical activity during outdoor learning sessions, especially in forests. Kids were simply moving more when learning outside.
Okay, so integrating it into lessons worked.
Seems like it. And also school gardens. A 2014 study found kids were significantly more active in schools with gardens compared to control schools.
Gardens, too. Interesting. What about just changing the playground?
Yes, the schoolyard renovations. Multiple studies from 2019, 2021, 2014 found that when schools replaced asphalt with grass, trees, and other natural features, Kids generally became more physically active during recess and
That
breaks.
sounds pretty conclusive then. More green equals more movement.
Well, mostly, but not universally. That's the mixed part. There were other studies, like one from 2018 looking at weekly forest school days, that didn't find a significant increase in activity.
Okay.
And a few studies looking at greener schoolyards from 2014, 2018, and 2021 also found no significant difference compared to more traditional yards.
Huh. So why the difference? Any ideas?
It really seems to come down to the type and amount of the intervention. Just having a few trees might not be enough. But immersive experiences like regular outdoor lessons integrated into the curriculum, or really substantial changes to the schoolyard that offer lots of different ways to play and move, those seem to be more effective at boosting activity levels. It's not just if there's nature, but how it's presented and used.
Right. Quality and quantity matter.
Hmm.
It needs to be engaging and consistent. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Let's move on to social well-being, how kids get along, their relationships. What did the research find there?
This was actually a really positive area in the review, quite consistent findings.
Good. Like what?
Well, one study from 2018 looked at secondary students after a school camp out in nature. They reported feeling significantly more connected to their peers afterwards.
So shared nature experiences can build bonds.
Seems so. And remember those schoolyard greening projects we talked about for physical activity?
Yeah.
Those studies, particularly the ones by Rainey and colleagues, also observed improved social interactions among students after the green spaces were put in. Kids seemed to be playing together more positively,
Less conflict, maybe.
possibly, or just more cooperative play. And another study from 2018 found that students in schools that already had greener schoolyards actually self-reported having better social relationships overall.
So multiple angles pointing towards better social connections.
Exactly. The evidence suggests green spaces within the school environment can genuinely help foster better social bonds and interactions.
That's fantastic. School social life can be tough, so anything that helps is great. What about things like being kind or helpful pro-social behavior? Did nature make kids nicer to each other?
Well, that's where the evidence wasn't as strong. The studies that specifically measured pro-social behaviors like helping or sharing didn't really find a significant effect from these school-based nature interventions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a 2021 study looked at kids visiting a nature reserve as part of school, and that 2018 study comparing green versus paved yards neither found significant differences in measured pro-social actions.
So green spaces help them connect and interact better, but don't necessarily translate directly into more, say, sharing behavior in that specific context.
It seems not, based on this review. It suggests that while nature can create a positive social atmosphere, boosting specific acts of kindness might depend on other factors too, maybe how teachers facilitate interactions or the overall school culture.
Right, it's one piece of a bigger puzzle.
Yeah, okay.
Now, the review also looked specifically at age and gender, didn't it? Did these nature effects differ between younger and older kids, or between boys and girls?
Yes, they tried to tease that out, although it wasn't the primary focus of most individual studies. For age, the picture was, well, mixed again.
Okay.
We saw positive mood effects across different ages. But the stress reduction, remember, seemed stronger physiologically in the younger elementary kids.
Right.
For physical activity, most studies were with younger children, and results varied by the type of activity. But one study did note that general physical activity tends to decline as kids get older anyway, which is a well-known trend.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And the social benefits, like improved interactions, were mainly seen in studies involving younger kids, too. But because most studies didn't directly compare age groups doing the same thing, it's hard to draw really firm conclusions. We need more research looking specifically at those age differences.
Okay, so age is still a bit fuzzy. What about gender? Any clear differences there?
Yes, this was actually one of the more intriguing aspects, especially regarding physical activity.
Oh.
Several studies confirmed what we often see, that boys tend to have higher overall physical activity levels than girls in school settings. That wasn't specific to nature, just a general finding.
Okay, the baseline difference.
Exactly. But, and this is the really interesting part, a couple of studies, one from 2019 and one from 2018, suggested that when schools implemented nature-based changes, like greening the schoolyard, girls' physical activity levels actually increased more than boys' levels did.
Whoa, really? So the green spaces might help close that activity gap.
It's a really promising possibility. One idea mentioned in research even before this review is that natural, greener spaces often provide more diverse types of activities, not just big running games, but maybe building things, exploring, quieter play that might appeal more broadly and perhaps particularly engage girls who are sometimes less drawn to traditional sports on asphalt.
That makes so much sense, offering different ways to be active.
Exactly. So it suggests these green interventions aren't just good overall, they might have this added benefit of promoting more equitable physical activity opportunities.
That's a fantastic insight. Now, looking at all these studies together, how good was the actual research? Can we, trust these findings?
That's always a critical question. The review itself did assess the quality of each included study. They used a standard tool for this.
Okay.
And they found about a third of the studies were rated as strong quality and the rest were moderate. So generally decent.
Any weaknesses they pointed out?
Yeah, some common challenges in this kind of real-world research. Things like potential bias and how participants were selected for some studies, limitations in certain study designs,
Yeah.
and the difficulty of blinding.
Blinding, like doctors not knowing who got the real pill.
Exactly. It's hard to blind teachers and students in a school they know if their playground has been dug up and replaced with trees.
Right, kind of obvious.
Yeah, and also fully controlling for absolutely everything else that might influence kids' well-being, what researchers call confounders, is always tricky in a complex school environment.
Mhm.
But the review did note that how the studies collected their data and how they handled kids dropping out was generally pretty strong. So overall, it's an evolving field. But there's a solid base of moderate to strong evidence pointing towards these benefits, even with those limitations. More research will definitely refine things.
Okay, that's reassuring.
Yeah.
So let's quick and wrap our heads around the main points. If someone asks, what did that deep dive say about nature in schools?
Yeah.
What are the key takeaways?
Okay, the big picture is this. Bringing nature into the school environment, whether through lessons, greener yards, or nature outings, shows real promise.
Hmm.
We saw pretty good evidence for boosting positive emotions, making kids feel happier.
Good.
There's also good evidence for increasing physical activity, and excitingly, this might be especially helpful for getting girls moving more.
Excellent point.
And it seems to help foster better social connections and interactions among students.
Also very important.
Where the evidence is a bit less clear or perhaps more complex is around stress reduction. It looks promising, particularly for younger kids, but maybe less straightforward for teens. And the direct impact on specific pro-social behaviors like sharing seems minimal in these contexts.
Got it.
And crucially, remember that the type of nature experience, how often it happens, how long it lasts, and the age of the kids, all these things likely play a role in the specific outcomes.
Okay, great summary. So bringing this back to our listeners, parents, educators, anyone interested in kids' well-being, what should they take away from all this? Why does it matter?
Well, I think it really underscores that schools can be more than just places for academics, right?
Yeah.
By thinking intentionally about the physical environment, by bringing in natural elements, we have this fantastic opportunity to actively support kids' mental, physical, and social health all alongside their learning.
So it's not an either with academics.
Not at all. For parents, maybe it sparks a conversation with the school about their outdoor spaces, what's available, how is it used.
What I do.
For educators, principals, policymakers, this research really backs up the idea of investing in things like green schoolyards, maybe outdoor classroom areas, or nature-based learning programs. It's about creating environments where kids can genuinely thrive in all sorts of ways.
Creating schools that nurture the whole child.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's something to really chew on after we finish up. Given everything we've talked about, how could we maybe reimagine our schools? If even these, sometimes quite small doses of nature during the school day can make a difference, what could the longer-term impact be if we really prioritize this? If we design schools with nature truly integrated right from the start, what kind of society might that lead to if we nurtured that connection from a young age?
That's a huge and really important question to think about. Are we missing bigger opportunities here? How could we weave nature not just into schools, but maybe into more parts of children's daily lives for their well-being?
Lots to think about there. This deep dive, as always, feels like just scratching the surface.
It really is.
Yeah.
Hopefully it encourages people to look around their own communities, see what's happening with nature in local schools, and maybe get involved or just learn more.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.
My pleasure.
Until our next exploration, keep wondering.